Hi, I'm Lindy Whitten. Welcome to the studio. Today I'm just going to do a painting demonstrating using paler tints for white. So when we look at something that's white, our brain tells us it's white and we just see it as a flat white colour. If we look at it with our artistic eyes, in reality what the white is doing is reflecting the colours around it and being impacted on by shadows from other objects, so that white is very, very rarely pure flat white, and we need to introduce other colours, and the way to do that is to use tints of white. So here's a little box I have with all my lights in it. I'm going to be using those today to create a painting of a white object, so let's see it as it develops. I'm going to make this a sunrisey, so there'll be warmth back here, there'll be some trees, and there'll just be the snow down here with the shadows of the trees on it. So I'm going to start with the background and just block in some warm kind of colours for the sky there. I'm using a Daley Rowney Murano textured paper here, not my usual one. So just want to make that very warm here as part of the background. So just laying over some yellows and peachy colours, peachy pink colours there. I'm getting up into some really peachy colours up there in the sky, and maybe take it out to some blue as well at the edges there. So that's the general idea of the sky there. Now I'm going to put in a little bit of a hill line there, and that's going to be quite lit on the top there by the sunlight. Maybe even a couple of touches of pinks coming off it as well. And as it comes down off the top there, it's going to get more shadowed areas, and so it's going to have some more purples in that. I'm going to use my finger there to give a slight misting off and into the sky there as well. And then I'll give that another dusting over with a very bright light, taking some blue down into it. So I get a nice bit of a shimmer going on in that sky back there, and just keep running those softly over the whole sky. A little bit of pink going into it now, bringing the pinks down into there. I'll just be going back into that hill there, and I'm going to put the trees in and then work the rest of it around them. So the tree trunks, I'll put it in a sort of I'll use a few different colours for the tree trunks there. Just going to come straight up like that. Continuing back there. As they go up into the sky, they'll get darker against the light of the sky, just because of the value shift. It's not that the trunks change colour, it's that against the lighter sky they'll appear darker. And we'll just come down here. Quite a lot of trunks there. As the sun shines through them, they're going to sort of combine together to make big masses of shadows. So I'd like to put in a strip back here. I just put that into Gaibia. Now I need to put in a bit of the hills back here, and grasses, sort of trees back here. The snow isn't settling on everything. It's settled on the ground, and I will put a dusting of snow on these trees, but you can see some of the greenery showing through there. So I've got that in just to give me a little bit of variation in the green. There'll be some darker masses back there too of the trees. And I've got quite a dark purpley colour here, and I'll just suggest a bit of tree shape back there by pulling some of that purple colour down through the sky and into some darks back there. And I need to give a feeling of snow back there as well. It's in the brighter light back there, so it's actually going to be a sort of yellowy green colour back here. So I'm going to, that's a very, very pale green, so I'm starting off with that. It's reflecting a bit of the light from the colour from that row of greeny trees there. So it's very light back there, the snow. And some of that's going to come through in patches here. I'm going to reinstate those tree trunks later on, but right now there'll be some patches of it coming through here, and it's going to get brighter as it comes through. It's going to be a mix of sort of yellows and pinks in the patches of snow, of sunlight there. So just mixing those up, so mixing those up with very light tints of pinks, pale greens and yellows for the sunlight patches of snow. They'll start to come out this way a bit. So even though some of these look white, they're not white. I'm carefully selecting colours that aren't white, that are much paler. But when I start putting in the shadows, which I'll start to do in a minute, you'll see how it really reads as the bright sunlit part of the snow. Just working those sunlit bits out. It's all looking a little bit wishy-washy at the moment, isn't it? With just the shadows, sorry, the sunlit area. But what we need is to play the colours off each other. So I will start developing some of the shadowed areas as well, and they will be going in much darker purples and blues to create the shadowed areas, with maybe some blue-green in there as well. I'm going to start off with this purpley colour. And into that I'll be adding other blues, so that it's not just a dead area of one sort of colour. So some even darker bits. Over here I think I'm going to make it quite dark in the shadowed area, because it's the corners and they tend to be, I want to knock back the interest in the corners and make them a little bit less dynamic. There'll be some really nice pinky sort of edges where the shadows and the lighter snow meet, so I'm just going to put some of those in, just a suggestion of some edges. And I'm going right in there with this needs to go right through this area as well, so taking it in, bringing it down into here, into the other areas. And I am just using the one at the moment, but I will mix more in with it. I'm just getting the basic outline set. So I'm getting a pattern there of the shadows and the. What I want to do though is suggest here that it's flattening out a little bit. So I'm going to actually make some of those shadows a bit more as if they're going up and over ridges and so on in the landscape there. That's going to be a bit of a dark one through there. Just some little patches in there of the sunlit snow as well. Maybe bring that out a little bit too to suggest that the shadows have got more of a angle on them as it spreads out. Down through here I'm going to make the shadows angle across a little bit. So we might have a bit more of that coming down through here. And I'm going to try and randomise that a little bit now with some different pale tints, so it's not just the one. And give it some depth by taking the snow back that way a little bit. Adding into there yellows and greens and maybe a few pinks as well, just to create that really sunlit section back there against the very pink sky. So I do probably want to add in a few more pinks than I have there, because it'll be reflecting off the sky as well. need to keep these quite clean because I'm just going to muddy those up if I don't. I keep forgetting I'm not working on the sanded paper, so I'm probably putting on a bit thicker layer than I should. I need to keep those layers a little bit softer here, not so much pressure so that I can keep laying over the top. The shadows themselves, the deeper shadows, are going to have some darker pinks in them. We don't want them to be just purple and blues, so I'm just laying little bits of some little bits of pink in there amongst those as well. And then I need to keep building that up, so laying in more of the colours there. And the shadows will be fatter back there and get thinner as they come in, so I haven't really developed that idea. I need to do that now. Just thin them out a bit as they come back. So perhaps make them a little bit thicker through there. But I do need little touches of sunlight in the gaps there. There are a whole lot of branches too, so I need to start laying in some patterns of branches going across and creating other patterns on here that flow over the main trunks as well. So putting some of those in now. They again will be in different blues and purples. And just keep adding those in. Going back into it with the deep purple as well down in this area. And laying in a little bit of the purples and some of the other spots in the shadows on the through here as well. They're emphasising the difference between the sunlight areas of the snow and the really deep shadowed areas as well. So I've laid in quite a lot of shadows now, and you can really see that the snow is singing with the shadowed areas and the sunlit areas. I need to give it some sort of feeling of moving over the landscape as well. It's not just a flat plane of snow there, so I need to have some little irregularities in these areas too. So if I put some brighter sort of areas in there to suggest that there's a fold in the land there, just a few of those. I've brought all the shadows and the sunlight that way, but now I need to put some of the horizontal planes in the landscape there. So I'm going to put those in by just putting in some horizontal strokes of the sunlit snow, as opposed to just those verticals I was putting in earlier. And they become like the horizontal strokes I had back there. So just putting... I am starting to clog up the paper here. I need to be careful about that. And you can see when I put some of the horizontals, it does make you aware that underneath all these snow and shadows there's topography, there's the landscape moving, undulating. So I'll keep putting some of those in. I'm just adding in a few more of the cooler green, really pale green that I had up here as well, just to help tie it together and to give some more feeling of as I said, the topography, the way the land's moving underneath that blanket of snow. Putting a few of those in. I think that's helping a bit. I want to remember this is the very pale green. I don't really want to put too much of that in because it's going to make it very cool there, and it is in the shadow, in the sunlit area. So I'm now going back in with a warmer orange white, which I'm putting in some of as well. So these are just various shades of white. Just with a bit of very pale tints of oranges and pinks, mauves, yellows. That's what's giving us our appearance of sunlit snow. And it appears, our brain reads it as white. I'm also going to add in some of those kind of horizontal marks in the tree trunk shadows, just to suggest that there might be some little banks of sand, of earth underneath the snow covering there as well. That's fairly good. What I want to do now is put in the tree trunks through here again, reinstate those, and then work out from there if there's anything much else I need to do. So they'll be quite dark going up through there. And I'm running them back in from where I initially did them, making a cross hatch of trees there, through which I'll fatten up their bases there, and I'll also darken up their bases in a moment. So at the moment I'm just putting in a warm colour which I'm running up into the sky. And that's going to be touched with quite a few warm colours because of that warm sky, so it'll be catching the edges of some of these tree trunks. Just to create that warm light from the sun shining through there. It won't just be that very bright yellow on the cool side. I'll have some cooler sided ones as well, so I'll have some down here. I'm going into the deep darks in the bottom of trees, and I'll even make them darker than the shadows in a moment. I'm just putting a bit of the blue from the shadows in them to settle them into the ground, and I'll add something a little bit darker as well in a moment. Pulling some from the background as well there. I want very dark now. I'm going to pull out a real dark to go down in the base here of those trees trunks. So giving them all a bit of a dark base. I will pull a few bits of the dark higher up into the tree as well. For the moment I'm just setting those in, and then I'll pull some little patches of the darks going up the trunks there, and random sort of patterns. Just touching the side of the pastel against the bases. Need to be fatter than the rest of the trunks as they go up. I'll add some paler blues into these trunks as well. There'll be some little grasses around the base here of some of the trees. Just going to darken up a few of those bits of shadows, make them a little bit darker as they come straight from the tree, and they'll get a little bit lighter as they go out. So there'll be a few darker ones back here too, where the tree sort of canopies are. Just want to make some of these a little bit thicker, some of those branches. Get a little interplay there of tangledness. I want to take a softer blue now and add some blue patches to those trees. Bluey greeny patches, little patches of snow on the edges of the trees. I need to put some more diagonal sort of branches coming off because I've got all those. So I'll start putting a few little branches. In amongst those. They will need to be delineated a little bit darker too, so especially as it goes up against the sky. So I'll get in not black, I do want black, but I want it quite darker. So here I am introducing those darks, and I'll add a little bit more to the trunks as I go up into that sky as well. I'm adding that in at the base there where I had that very dark, it's a browny sort of dark, and I'm putting a greyer kind of dark over it. Just that will help to really delineate the base of the trees there. Now I haven't forgotten that these trees are kind of sunlit, and I'm going to go back in and reinforce. We've got great patterns here going on, lots of colours in the shadows of the snow, colours in the oops, I missed that bit of the sunlit sand there. I keep calling it sand, snow. What I need to do is add a few more bits of colour into the trees there, just catching bits of light along the edges. And that will be more towards the centre of the painting and not so much out towards the edges, because I want to keep the focus more in there. It's a very gentle kind of background. Not a lot going in there. It's just a glow coming through, which is what I wanted to achieve. Where I want to and maybe a few along the bases. These grasses that I've put in, I really need to give them a bit of variation too where the sun hits them. So the grasses are going to get little touches of pinks and yellows where they're popping into some areas of. I just want to sign that now, and to do that I'm going to use a pencil. Or I've got something in here that would work. Actually, to do the signature, I'm just going to do a pink to harmonise with that, and over here in the corner. So there we have it. Hope you enjoyed that demonstration of how to use your light colours, your very, very palest tints of lemon and pink and purples and oranges and greens to create the illusion of snow in filtered sunlight. Thanks for joining me in the studio. See you next time. Bye for now.